The machine that moved AMAR see the 5,000-year journey of the bus and the automobile. Before speedy XXD, imagine standing in Manhattan. Now remove the taxis, remove the buses, remove the bridges, remove the raw. Silence. Wind between wooden buildings, dirt, roads. Horses. That was not the 1700s. That was almost yesterday in human history. For more than 99% of our existence, humanity moved no faster than a running animal. Speed was biological. Distance was painful, time was heavy. The story of the bus and the four-wheeled automobile is not just a story of machines, it is the story of how humans defeated distance and nowhere. Did that revolution explode more dramatically than in the United States? But to understand how America became a nation of highways, we must go back 5,000 years. The wheel, humanity's first arrival, on around 3500 BCE, in Mesopotamia, something extraordinary happened. A circular object began turning beneath a wooden cart. The wheel. Historians still debate whether the wheel was invented for pottery first or transportation. But once attached to a cart, it changed trade, agriculture, and warfare. Without the wheel, no wagons, no chariots, no Roman roads, no covered wagons crossing the American frontier. Yet for thousands of years, wheels had one limitation. They could not move themselves. They needed animals, oxen, horses, mules. Transportation was powered by biology, even in colonial America. In the 1700s, roads were muddy trails. Wagons broke constantly. Journeys were brutal. Travel from Boston to New York could take days. From New York to Georgia, weeks. When America declared independence in 1776, it was not yet a mobile nation. It was scattered settlements connected by dirt. The dream of speed had not yet arrived. Steam awakens the MACH in 1769 in France. A military engineer named Nicolas-Joseph Cugnot built a three-wheeled steam vehicle intended to haul cannons. It moved under its own power. It was slow. It was unstable. It famously crashed into a wall. Arguably the first automobile accident in history. But it proved something revolutionary. A vehicle did not need an animal. Steam engines spread rapidly in the 1800s. Trains dominated rails. But engineers wondered, could steam work on roads? Steam carriages appeared in Britain in the 1820s. Some even operated as early buses. But governments imposed heavy taxes and safety restrictions. Steam road vehicles faded. They were too heavy, too dangerous, too impractical. The world needed a smaller engine, one powered by controlled explosions. The internal combustion BREAKT HROUGH in 1876. Nicolaus Otto perfected the four-stroke internal combustion engine. Intake, compression, power, exhaust. The Otto cycle. Instead of boiling water, it burned fuel inside a chamber. Smaller, lighter, more efficient. Then, in 1885, Karl Benz assembled the first practical gasoline-powered automobile, the Benz patent motor wagon. 3 wheels, 1 cylinder, a top speed of about 10 mph. In 1886, he patented it. That patent is widely considered the birth certificate of the modern car. But invention is not success. The car looked strange. It frightened horses. People laughed. Then came the turning point. In 1888. Bertha Benz took the vehicle without telling her husband and drove over 60 miles to visit her mother. She fixed mechanical issues on the road, invented brake lining improvements, created the first roadside refueling stop at a pharmacy. Her journey proved the automobile worked. It transformed a curiosity into a revolution. America embraces the MACHINE by the 1890s. America was industrializing rapidly. Oil had been discovered in Pennsylvania decades earlier. Steel production was booming. Inventors across the country were building experimental cars. Then came the man who would change everything, Henry Ford. Ford did not invent the automobile. He democratized it. In 1908, he introduced the Ford Model T. It was affordable, durable, repairable by ordinary people. In 1913, Ford introduced the moving assembly line. Production time dropped dramatically. Costs plummeted. By 1927, More than 15 million Model Ts were sold. America became mobile. Farmers could reach towns faster. Workers could live farther from factories. Teenagers could escape supervision. The automobile created suburbs before suburbs existed. It reshaped dating culture, retail, patterns. Urban design, everything. The birth of the BOs, while cars offered individual freedom. Cities required mass transportation. In the early 1800s, New York had horse-drawn omnibuses, but gasoline-powered buses began emerging in the early 20th century. In 1914, a small bus company in Minnesota began operations. It would eventually become Greyhound lines. Greyhound connected rural America to cities. During the Great Depression, buses were lifelines for unemployed workers. During World War II, buses transported soldiers and defense workers. During the Civil Rights Movement, buses became symbols of protest and change. The bus was not glamorous, but it was democratic. If the automobile symbolized independence, the bus symbolized access. The automobile rewrites American geography. By the 1920s, America was no longer a nation connected by railroads alone. It was becoming a nation connected by roads. In 1900, there were only about 8,000 automobiles in the United States. By 1910, nearly 500,000. By 1920, almost 8 million. By 1930, over 23 million. The speed of adoption was astonishing. Entire industries exploded around the automobile. Oil refining, tire manufacturing, road construction, motels, diners, gas stations, auto insurance, traffic policing. The demand for rubber surged, reshaping global trade. The demand for oil redefined geopolitics. Cities began redesigning themselves around parking. Streets declined in many regions. Suburbs slowly emerged because now workers could commute. The automobile did not just move people. It expanded cities outward. Downtown was no longer the only viable place to live. Land far from the factories suddenly had value. And with that shift, America's physical identity began to change forever. The Great Depression and the bus as SURV are when the stock market crashed in 1929. Car sales collapsed. Factories slowed. Unemployment soared. But buses survived. Why? Because in times of economic hardship, collective transport becomes essential. Greyhound lines expanded aggressively during the 1930s. Cheap fares meant struggling. Americans could search for work in distant states. The bus became the vehicle of resilience. Meanwhile, automobile manufacturers had to adapt. Companies consolidated. Some failed entirely. Those that survived learned a powerful lesson. Affordability matters, reliability matters, and mass production must balance with economic reality. World War II. The automobile goes to when the United States entered World War II in 1941. Civilian automobile production nearly stopped. Factories shifted to military output. Ford built bombers. General Motors built tanks. Chrysler built engines for aircraft. The automotive industry became the arsenal of democracy. The logistical systems developed for automobiles helped power wartime supply chains. Meanwhile, buses transported defense workers daily to factories. Military transport vehicles evolved from civilian truck designs. The Jeep, though developed under military contracts, reflected decades of automotive innovation. When the war ended in 1945, something extraordinary happened. America was economically dominant. Its factories were intact. Europe's were destroyed. The United States was ready for a consumer boom, and Americans were ready to buy cars. The suburban explosion after World War II. Returning soldiers wanted homes. The GI Bill made mortgages affordable. Developers built massive suburban communities. But suburbs required one thing: cars. In 1950, America had about 40 million vehicles. By 1960, over 60 million. Families often owned two cars. Driveways became standard in home design. Shopping malls replaced central markets. The phrase rush hour entered the vocabulary. Highways filled with commuters. The automobile created modern suburban America. The Interstate Highway SYSTM in 1956. Dwight D. Eisenhower signed the Federal Aid Highway It authorized over 41,000 miles of interstate highways, the largest infrastructure project in U.S. history, inspired partly by Germany's Autobahn system that Eisenhower had observed during World War II. The interstate network reshaped America. Small towns were bypassed, logistics accelerated, cross-country travel became dramatically faster, truck transportation grew rapidly. Shifting freight from rail to road. Buses gained access to smoother, faster routes. The interstate system unified the nation physically, but it also divided cities. Highways often cut through low-income neighborhoods. Urban renewal displaced communities. Progress came with cost. The culture of the open road, the car was no longer just transportation. It became mythology. Route 66 symbolized adventure. Drive-in theaters flourished in the 1950s. Teenagers cruised in convertibles. Muscle cars roared in the 1960s. Cars became identity. Pickup trucks symbolized rugged independence, luxury. Sedans represented status. Sports cars represented speed and rebellion. The automobile appeared in films, music, and literature. It became inseparable from American freedom. No other country tied personal liberty so tightly to a machine. School buses. The yellow ICON-1, uniquely American development, was the standardized yellow school bus. Before the 1930s, school transportation was inconsistent. In 1939, a national conference standardized school bus color, National School Bus glossy yellow, because it was highly visible in early morning light. School buses expanded educational access in rural areas. They connected farms to classrooms. They increased attendance. They quietly reshaped education equality. Millions of children experienced their first independence on a yellow bus. It became a rite of passage. Safety and REFOR, and by the 1960s, traffic fatalities were soaring. Cars were powerful. Roads were crowded. Safety standards were minimal. Then came Ralph Nader. His 1965 book, Unsafe at Any Speed, criticized car manufacturers for ignoring safety. Public pressure led to federal safety regulations. Seatbelts became mandatory. Crumple zones improved survival. Airbags were developed. The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, NHTSA, was formed. Automobiles became dramatically safer over time, yet crashes remained a tragic cost of mobility. The oil shock in 1973. The OPEC oil embargo shocked America. Gasoline prices spiked. Lines formed at stations. Suddenly, fuel efficiency mattered. Large cars declined in popularity. Japanese automakers gained market share with smaller, efficient vehicles. SUVs would later dominate, but for a time, America reconsidered excess. The oil crisis revealed vulnerability. The automobile tied America's economy to global oil politics. Energy policy became national security policy. The rise of the SUV and pickup. DOMINANC. By the 1990s, SUVs surged in popularity. They combined the utility of trucks with passenger comfort. Pickup trucks became America's best-selling vehicles. The automobile industry adapted to consumer preference for size, safety perception, and cargo flexibility. Vehicles became heavier, more powerful. More technologically advanced, but environmental concerns intensified. Carbon emissions rose. Urban congestion worsened. The car's dominance faced criticism. The electric RTR. Ironically, electric vehicles existed in the early 1900s, but gasoline won due to range and refueling speed. Then, in 2008, Tesla, Inc. launched the Roadster. Electric cars were no longer slow or boring. They were fast. Innovative. Software-driven. Soon, legacy. Automakers like Ford Motor Company and General Motors committed billions to electric transition. Electric buses entered city fleets. Charging infrastructure expanded. The transportation revolution restarted. Autonomy and AI. Today, vehicles are evolving beyond engines. Companies like Waymo are testing self-driving taxis in major U.S. cities. Sensors. Cameras. Machine learning. The car is becoming a computer on wheels. Future buses may operate without drivers. Traffic systems may become a eye-coordinated. The machine that once required a human driver may soon drive itself. The bus in modern cities in cities like New York, Chicago, and Los Angeles. Buses remain essential. They reduce congestion per passenger. They lower emissions compared to individual cars. They connect underserved neighborhoods. Public transit systems rely on buses as flexible infrastructure. Electric buses are reducing urban pollution. Rapid bus lanes improve efficiency. The bus remains one of the most economically efficient transport modes ever invented. Economic impact. The automobile industry contributes hundreds of billions annually to the U.S. economy. It employs millions directly and indirectly. It shapes urban planning, retail location, energy demand, global trade, infrastructure policy. Without automobiles, the American economy would be unrecognizable. Highways enable trucking logistics that feed supermarkets, school. Buses enable education access. Pickup trucks power construction. Ride-sharing apps rely on personal vehicles. The entire ecosystem rests on four wheels. The future, reinventing mobility. Why now? The questions are profound. Can cities reduce congestion? Can electric vehicles fully replace gasoline? Will hydrogen fuel cells rise? Will autonomous buses eliminate accidents? Will urban centers shift back toward walkability? The four-wheeled vehicle is evolving again. Climate concerns push electrification. Technology pushes automation. Urban planners push redesign. The machine that built America is transforming once more. Distance DFEA, from Nicolas-Joseph Cugnot to Karl Benz to Henry Ford to the engineers of Tesla, Inc. and beyond. The bus and automobile did more than move bodies. They restructured civilization. They redefined time. They reshaped geography. They created modern America. And as you step into a car tomorrow or board a bus on a crowded street, remember, you are not entering a simple vehicle. You are stepping into the most transformative machine in human history. A machine that turned distance into possibility. And the journey is not over.